You're good.
Okay. So this is our um, college nutrition web application. What we basically wanted to do was help college students figure out like what's easy for them to cook, what's cheapest for them to cook, what'll provide them the most protein, like whatever based on their diet. Um, it's mainly for like college students because we all know that we're limited on money, we're limited on like kitchen supplies, and we just want to help the students out with like what they can afford, what'll help them grow as an individual, um, and what basically just whatever nutrition they need to help their body function. Because we all know that college is it's very you need the right nutrition to stay focused, stay strong, like mentally, physically, all within studying for your exams, just doing daily classwork. And we all know that it's especially more important for like college athletes because if they don't have the right nutrition, then their bodies are gonna um, like basically diminish and just not healthy. Um, so this right here is the new web page that I designed. We all inputted like what we wanted. It's more of like a web browser now instead of just like a PowerPoint slide. We have our buttons down here that you can like click to view the recipe. It's more like interactive in the sense. Um, Another thing that I helped, or Naisha and I did for the project was we created flip cards. We shared this Google Drive so that way it was just easier to use. We saw like what we could like copy and paste into our code. Um, it's just all the information that we did. Like we inserted an image of the slow cooker chili. We added the height, the width on the front of the card, and then when we flip to the back of the card, it just has the title and certain lines that'll say like ingredients and then the instructions. We have about 6 cards so far. It's also on our last one. What we attempted to do, it didn't really work out. We copied a link in because we wanted to have the Cougar Cafe inputted into one of our flip cards, except the issue with that was we just couldn't figure out the right coding. We searched it up many times, like the right coding for it to work on the flip card, but it just didn't happen to work out for us.
My name is Godwin Jaja, and my part of the project was to help with developing, researching, and figuring out the way to um, combine Flask, the Python, with the API that we chose to use. Um, the initial problems that we experienced in trying to get all that stuff coordinated was it was challenging at first. We had to kind of on the fly learn Flask and what the capabilities of um, that framework uh, was. Learning how to connect APIs, which of course entailed we had to decide which API to use. We ended up going with Edamame API, setting up all the accounts and being able to call the APIs. Some of the first issues that we encountered was just trying to get the API to populate the right data. And we were able to finally get that the web application where we were just messing around with it, trying to get anything to come up on our web page. And we first started off with a HTML page um, just to see if we could get the API before we incorporated Flask and Python um, to that. So we just wanted to break it down, start with the simplest part of it, and get over that hurdle, and then get to um, kind of like bringing all the technology back together. And so here we basically got it up to the point where if you typed in uh, any ingredient that you may have, say for example, I've had some stuff up here. We'll do apples again. Let me refresh. I'm sorry. We're able to pull up recipes from the ADM API. And so the next stages, of course, was to be able to pull more APIs because we wanted to also include nutrition facts to go along with some of the searches. And we wanted to also incorporate the flip card, which Kristen talked about in the previous segment, so that once you clicked on the picture, you'd be able to the card. So those were some of the issues, just being able to pull the data from the APIs, being able to incorporate the APIs into our Flask, putting it all together in a way that if somebody uses the application, they'll be able to search what they want and be able to receive that data in a comprehensible manner where it's neat and easy to understand. And basically to cook what you want to eat.
Alrighty, I'm gonna talk about the Flask code and what we actually have got running. So I'm just gonna start off with the Flask app because this is where I spend most of my time, and this is where a lot of the data and the API calls are. We have so the app, when it first loads up, it defaults to going to just this empty route. So I have to redirect it to the home page, which we have this that returns this HTML file, so it displays properly. Then we have several other pages. We have search food. We have, where is it at? We have our returned food, and we have food measures and food nutrition, which we'll get into more detail with all of those later. But first I'm going to go through the functions and how it calls the data. So the first, the user would go to search food. They would type in ingredient or a food that they want to find the nutrition for, and then we can take that type food from the HTML form and store it in a variable here, which we pass to the API. This is the base API URL, and these are the parameters that we pass to it, which includes the app ID, the app key. This is the user searched food, and we pass that to it here with the parser response. We get the URL, we give it the headers that we need, and we give it the parameters. We take that response, we store it as text, and then we store the parser data as JSON. So we can flatten it so it's easy to traverse and find the proper data in. And this function does all that, and then it just returns parser data. So we have that flattened JSON file that we can use with everything else. The next step would be to display the food, because it doesn't just show the singular food that the user typed in, it also shows related food. So if someone types in chicken, it would show the options for chicken, or fried chicken, or chicken legs, or something like that. So here I just have a function that creates an array, and it searches through the JSON file, the parser data, and if hints is in the key and food label is in the key, then it just stores that label in the array. It's the same thing for it's almost the same thing for the create measures array, which is the measurements of this selected food. So you can get the nutrition values based off the gram, the ounce, a tablespoon, or a serving, or if you have something like chicken or cheese, a whole piece of chicken, or like a whole chicken or a whole cheese, you can get those nutrition values. So what we had to do was find out where in the array the food label that the user clicked was. and then we store that array number in food, and that will allow us to search through the JSON file to find out the same number. So if they clicked on the first option, it would be in the 0 place. So it would return 0, and that 0 would be input here. So we get the hints 0 measures, and that would give us the measurements for the selected food, and that's all stored in an array just like up here. This is the measures URI, which the URI is fed to the second part of the API to find all of the data nutrition. So this is an important part of using the second part of the API, as well as the food ID and getting the food image. And then here we come to some more heavy lifting with the get nutrition data, which takes the URI and the food ID. We store both of those in this JSON object that we then send to the second part of the URL here. So we have the session post just like before. We have the nutrients URL, this is the base URL for the second part of the API. We have the parameters, which is the key and ID, and then we have this JSON object that we give to it, and that will give us back the nutrition data, which is also flattened. It's a JSON object that's flattened, just for easy traversal. Then we can find all the nutrients that we need. We can get the diet labels if there's any diet labels. We can get health labels if there's any health labels, and cautions if it gives us any cautions. We can get the percent values for those nutrition values as well, not just the weight, not just the grams. So we can find out how much percent of, like how many percent of calories you need in that day or whatever. So now we come back down here to some more pages. So this is the returned food page, where it displays the food that the user searched up, and the related foods. So so we call the get parser data function and the create label array function. So we can get the actual food data, and then we can display just the data that we want. It's almost the same thing for food measures. We create the food measures array, and we feed it in, and we can get the measures of the selected food and display that properly. Then we come down here to the food nutrition, where we get the measures URI and the food ID from the parser data, and then we use the big function again, the get nutrition data, which uses the second part of the API, and then we have all of these arrays that we can feed into the HTML for the website. And we have a base HTML, which is just here, which Naisha is going to talk about soon, and I'll just go ahead and walk us through what we have going. So here's the home page for our app. We can select home, we can select recipes, which here are the flip cards that Naisha and Kristen were working on, so we have some recipes. Here's the Cougar Cafe, where they were trying to get that link to work, and these will all flip around using the JavaScript that they used. And then we can come to nutrition facts here, and we can search up any food that we want. We can search up chicken. If we submit that, here we have all of the different chicken things that they're returning. So if we just look up, click the whole chicken, we get the different measurements of the chicken, just like with the different kinds of chicken, we get the different measurements. If we look at whole chicken, then we get the different nutrition values. So see here we have energy calories, which is 2,500 in a total in a whole chicken. And then we can also see the percent value of those calories. So 2,580 calories is 129% of our total daily value. It doesn't have any health labels, diet labels, or cautions, but if we look up something like maybe sugar cube. No, I know there was something. Was it cheese? Cheddar cheese. Whole cheddar cheese. Yeah, we have cautions here, sulfates. But that's basically what we have. I believe Naisha is going to talk about the front end some more and the HTML and stuff like that. So thank you.
My name is Naisha, and I worked on the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. With this first tag, the div class, I used the red box. I labeled it the red box, and then I included the header, which would show Columbus State University Nutrition. For the nav class, I used the navigation bar, and it will show the home page, the recipes, nutrition facts. I created a container for the flip cards, and so with the first container, it's for the bagel pizza, and you will be able to see the ingredients and instructions. So once the user clicks the card, well, first it'll show the picture, and then once the user clicks the card, it'll show this list for the ingredients and then the instructions. I created more cards, and so for this card, it'll show the slow cooker chili and show the ingredients and instructions as well. The next flip card, it'll show the sweet chili salmon, and the image tag to display the image. For the next flip card, it will show easy snack ideas, and so you'll see a small list of snacks. And this flip card, it'll show favorite restaurants around campus, and then for the P tag, it'll show a list of all the restaurants provided on campus. And for the last card, it'll show the Cougar Cafe, and then I have a brief description of what's served at the cafe. And Krishna also helped me with the details here for the P tag and the images. Here I added a script for JavaScript, so I could connect the JavaScript file to the HTML. And here is JavaScript. So I have a list of each of the cards, and then I have a event listener, so when the user clicks on the card, it'll be able to flip over so they can view the details. And it's the full list. And here is the CSS file. And so this shows, this CSS is for the body. Here it'll show a red box at the top of the page for the background, and this is for the CSU logo, and the image is here as well. And this one is for the button. And these are the containers for the cards. So we have width and height, and then this one is to position the front and the back side of the card. And this one we have is to style the front side of the card, and this one is to style the back side of the card. And this is the second container that I had to create for the second row of cards. And for this, this is to set the width and the height of the card. And I also created a third container. And so when you run it, So when you run it, it shows the CSU logo and the Columbus State University Nutrition, the title of the page. And then here in the navigation bar, we have home, recipes, and nutrition facts. And this one is bagel pizza. So once I click on it, the user can then see the ingredients and the instructions. And for a slow cooker chili, once I click on it, it displays the ingredients and then the instructions. For a sweet chili salmon, we have the ingredients and then the instructions. And for easy snack ideas, we have the small list here. And for favorite restaurants around campus, it'll show it here. And for the Cougar Cafe, it'll provide the brief description. Thank you.